So in a nutshell, we see parents that are frustrated due to the problem they significantly contributed to. And that is, we never taught the kids the importance of and the value of a dollar. And so we want to help you as parents. And so this is really, the show is geared toward parents of children, really ages toddler through adulthood.
Yeah.
You know, you could have a 25-year-old and you still might be providing all of the things. You might be still paying their bills, or they may still be living under your roof. This show is for you too.
Yeah. Rock Solid Families wants to thank Maxwell Construction for sponsoring the Rock Solid Families podcast. For over 30 years, Maxwell Construction has been a leader in turning dreams into realities, building schools, banks, restaurants, and many other commercial and public facilities. Maxwell Construction has made it their priority to not just build buildings, but to build into their community. So if you have any construction needs, call them at 812-537-2200.
Welcome to the Rock Solid Families podcast. I am Linda Hutchinson alongside Daddy Warbucks, Merrill Hutchinson. Hey, hun.
Daddy Warbucks? What is Daddy
Well, there's
Warbucks
other terms
about?
I could have used. You know, I could have called you the ATM, but it doesn't sound as personal and as loving as Daddy Warbucks.
Well, I understand for sure ATM. This time of year especially.
Yeah.
You know, you feel like the kids when they walk by you, they just have a hand out at all times. It's just they keep it out at all times.
Yeah.
You know what? That's what we're going to talk about today.
Yes, we are. We're talking about teaching our kids about the value of a dollar. And so in this season of giving and the season of a lot of money flowing out of your home and your wallet, we thought it would probably be important before, and it might be too late, hon. We might have kind of like should have done this a month ago.
Yeah.
Before
well,
presents were on the
a big
tree.
reason why we're bringing it up is because all of a sudden our daughter and son think that we're a little stingy.
Well,
And again, without their kids, right? And
teens.
and I was just as guilty. But now their brain is getting all excited about Christmas. Oh, and then I've got to buy this gift and this gift and this gift. And so you and I have kind of randomly asked, well, how much money do you have? And in particular, our daughter's going, oh.
Yeah, it's one of those things where they both have jobs, 15
Yeah.
and 18-year-old, and they haven't been getting as many hours as they hoped. And so all of a sudden now, like, Christmas is coming, and there's a lot of things that they hope we'll buy them, and they want to buy for themselves and other people. And so we're talking about the value of a dollar.
We don't, I mean, in a way we police their money, but in a way we don't police their money now. Like we don't dictate exactly every penny they're going to spend because we want them to figure some of that out. But we're going to get into that today.
Yes, yeah.
And some of it's kind of funny and some of it's just going to be kind of sad.
I
but
wonder if our daughter will listen to this show.
she hasn't started yet, so I don't think she's going to start.
Before we do, we need to thank our sponsors. We want to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions and Maxwell Construction for their support of what we're doing here at the Rock Solid Families podcast, as well as the organization of Rock Solid Families. And if you don't know who we are a faith-based coaching organization that is really located in the greater Cincinnati area, right across the state line into the state of Indiana. And we really work with individuals and couples and families in the greater Cincinnati, Ohio area, but really all over the country via Zoom. You know, it's really easy to connect with us and work with us. And so we work with adult, parents of adult children who now have made their bed and they're lying in it, and they got somebody eating chips and salsa in their basement at the age of 30 and wondering why they're not leaving.
We've done shows on failure to launch,
we have.
and we've done these kind of things. But this one in particular, it's going to have a little bit of that failure to launch thing, but it's going to be about the whole value of a dollar. It's going to be about, like, how did our kids get so off on just thinking that, like a car today, hon? A car
Oh, my
today,
gosh.
the average cost of a car, I just read this the other day, the average cost of a new car is $43,000.
Oh my
Remember what
gosh.
we paid for our first house?
$42,000. It was
$42,000.
a
So
900 square foot little
a
old
little farmhouse.
farmhouse. Yeah.
Yeah. And but so the
Wow.
idea that kids see a $40,000 car and go,
Mhm.
well, yeah, I'll take that one,
Mhm.
without really thinking twice makes
Yeah.
us older folks, makes our head spin.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's
anyway,
crazy.
but here are some things that we want to talk about.
Mhm.
We see parents that come in all the time and their kids do have the handout. Well, give me some money, or, hey, mom, can I have this? Can I have that? What about the clothes? And here's where we get to see a lot of that. We see the parent come in very upset and frustrated
Yep.
because they'll say stuff like, they just think that I am an ATM.
Money
They
grows on
think money
trees.
grows on trees.
Yep.
They're so unappreciative,
Mhm.
And so we hear this stuff all the time.
Yeah. And so what, we want to help you is maybe get ahead of it. Maybe you have small children and this is really the time we're going to talk about to really lay this foundation. Maybe you have teenagers like we do that, kind of see what the world is doing and giving and expecting, and they want that too, that same entitlement. Or you may have adult children. We have adult children as well, 32, 29, almost 20, 18 and 15. So like we're kind of parenting in two generations here, and two, really mind shifts that have occurred. So we really know how you feel, and we want to be there to help you.
That's a right word, a mind shift, because that's what has to happen when mommy and daddy always bought the phone and the watch and the car. And then all of a sudden something happens where mommy and daddy aren't doing that. And if the mind doesn't shift,
Yeah.
then there's a lot of confusion.
But I think there's been, hun, don't you think, a culture shift, from when we grew up to even our older kids grew up, that there really has been this very entitled, I think the social media kind of brought it all out there. Like, I can see what my friends are getting. I can see what their parents bought them and what's out there to have. And so we've really connected our kids so much that they think that the world that they see, they can have right now. And so there's this culture shift of, if I want it, I should get it. That if it makes me happy, then I can get it. And so that's where the credit card has come from. I just had this conversation with our daughter just last night because she hasn't started working yet, but I can see the ching going on. She's kind of had a gap in here in work hours, and she's getting scheduled for this weekend. And I'm reminding her, like, you're working this weekend. The money's not in your pocket this weekend.
Sure.
So, like, don't go spend it before you have it. And she's like, well, how would I do that? And I was like, oh, thank God. That's right. She doesn't have a credit card.
Right.
Because that's how people live on credit these days, right?
Yeah.
Spending money they don't have.
Yeah. Well, and as soon as they can find a way to do that, and that's where the kids can learn to borrow money. They borrow money. We had one of our kiddos was borrowing money from a friend, and
Or a sibling.
It seems pretty innocent, but then all of a sudden you realize that your kiddo is $60 in the hole due to some silly thing that they're buying. And it's like, gosh, maybe we missed the boat, or at least they haven't owned the consequence of that yet.
I don't know. Maybe you're listening and you have a child who is driving or learning how to drive and wanting to buy their first car. Like you said, how much did you say like the new car costs?
$43,000 is the average cost of a new car.
Holy cow. But so anyway, we have a child who's saving for his first car. And so his car right now is a Matchbox car, but he turned 16 in January. And so we're trying to help him understand, like, delayed gratification, like waiting and building up that money for your car fund,
right,
instead of feeling like you need a new Xbox, right? Like, that Xbox sounds really great, but in the long run, would you rather hold off and have a nicer car? So it's really helping them understand that immediate gratification versus delayed gratification, and the difference in how worth waiting is sometimes better.
Yeah, hon, I think it's important too to mention that every kid comes with their own personality,
Mm-hmm.
and one kid will kind of buy into the I don't need the immediate gratification, and they can kind of have a vision for
Uh-huh.
what they're seeking. And you have another kid who doesn't have that vision forward.
Yep.
They have the immediate that they've got to satisfy. And so even though your goal to teach about money is the same, how they'll receive your teaching can be very, very different.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, they're going to do what they're going to do, right? But, we have some kids that have said, and they saved money, more money than we wanted them to save, because we always met them halfway on their car, and the halfway got a little bit steep
Where we
for
were
our
side.
Go. Yeah. We needed to save more money.
Yeah.
And then we have others where it's like they are going to get a Matchbox for a car.
Yeah.
And that's just the way that it's going to have to be.
So in a nutshell, we see parents that are frustrated due to the problem they significantly contributed to. And that is, we never taught the kids the importance of and the value of $1. And so we want to help you as parents. And so this is really, the show is geared toward parents of children, really ages toddler through adulthood.
Yeah.
You know, you could have a 25-year-old and you still might be providing all of the things. You might be still paying their bills, or they may still be living under your roof. This show is for you too.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't, we're going to start with the younger kids and how we parent them, but don't hang up if you start to hear that, because we are going to talk about, well, what if we didn't do the best job and now I have a teenager and I'm trying to cross into this, or even a young adult.
Yeah.
So
we get that coming in our office all the time, because we'll talk about, what we should have laid out, and they'll be like, yeah, I didn't do that. And so, but we're going to start there.
Yeah. All right. So let's start young. So we've got little ones, and I think sometimes we can put things off in all parts of parenting. But hun, this question I ask, and I know you do too, like in almost every parenting, whether it's the kids getting in trouble at school, or we need to figure out why they're disrespectful. And the question that just has to be asked is, what do you want your kid to be like when they're ready to leave your house, when they're a young adult? What do you want them to be like? And this is normally a values question. Like, what do you want the values that kid stands on and that they represent? And you have to ask that question, because most of the time it's assumed. Yeah. It is assumed. And the assumptions, well, you know what they say when you assume. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so it's way off base. And then all of a sudden we wonder why there's a shock when we haven't gotten our kids to where we thought they were going to be.
So stop blaming your kids for really what, for being unappreciative or maybe not hard workers. It started with us and how we had set that value system out, how the expectations, the communication, like you said, it could be assumed we want you to be a hard worker and we want you to be independent. But if we've never communicated that and communicated that often and early, then really we're kind of, laying out a groundwork for how that child's going to respond.
Yeah. Going to the next thing is, on the end of this, we're talking about money and how our kids perceive and understand money. But we actually, you can start the money teaching when they're 3 years old, but you're not going to use money. You're going to use manners, because money is about having appreciation, a respect for it, learning how to have an appreciation and a respect. And this is why at even the age of 3, we have those kind of ages now as grandkids in our family. And I really get a kick out of hearing our kids say, well, Frankie, did you say please? Did you say thank you?
Yes.
And so once again, we've underrated the value of manners, and manners are not just for the sake of your kids looking good. It's for them starting to learn that there is an appreciation and respect that has to go back and forth for what people are doing. All things carry a value. Yeah. And so if you just get your kids some food, then and they just start eating, and you don't say, so what do you say? I gave you that food. Your kids, they never get the first hook to learn it.
So let's say that you're in the grocery store and the child wants some candy. And you're like, no, you're not getting candy. And they keep throwing a fit. And after about 5 minutes and they're on their ground and they're throwing a little tantrum, you give in and give them candy. And they almost look at you like it's about time.
Right.
There's no appreciation.
We didn't have to go through all this,
exactly.
Mom.
If you just give it to me when I want, okay? If you start feeding that fire, then you're going to create the dynamic when they're a teenager that the fit will look bigger and uglier when it comes to the phone, or you didn't give them the Xbox, or you didn't buy them a car. And so start very young in helping them understand the value of money, but the appreciation of what they've been given. And so I'm not saying you can't ever buy your child some candy. Okay.
Right.
But here's what happens. If they're begging and nasty for it, that's when you don't get them the candy.
Right.
But if you want to be generous and, stop and buy ice cream, or, stop and get candy, but please don't let it be at their begging or whining or complaining, because that's creating this very bad misunderstanding of the value of $1 and how I get what I want.
Yeah. Yeah, when they ask in that way, remember when our kids would ask in that way, we automatically, our brains would just shut down the whole idea. And our kids learned that, we would be driving home from church or whatever. So a lot of times driving home from church, we do like to go out to get a bite to eat. And so, and we are a little bit unpredictable on that. And so our kids right away, and these were most of our adopted kids, because
our youngest,
they had already,
3.
And so when they came in, they'd be like, we're going to Skyline, we're going to Skyline. And it was almost a demand. Yeah. And you and I would look at each other like, nope, not today. And so finally the kids kind of learned, like, they were looking at each other like, are you going to bring it up? I'm not going to bring it up. And then when they wouldn't bring it up, we'd be like, hey, and we would just pull right in to Skyline. So again, it's that whole idea of how they ask and how they expect of it.
Yeah. And then it comes down to when they are given things, whether it be birthday presents, Christmas gifts, or just because, if they don't treat it with value, if they don't take care of those things, then this is really important that you don't just go rescue, fix, replace the things that they broke. If they got a new Nerf gun and they threw it down in anger and it broke, you don't go out and buy them another Nerf gun. They're not going to learn the value of $1. You're not going to teach them that you have to take care of the things that you're given. It doesn't just grow on trees. Right. And that's so important to start that really young.
Yeah. You're teaching the kids, when you think about the idea that the kids learn to say please and thank you for when you do something for them. And then they learn to take care of something when you give them something. You're teaching them the difference between a service that is provided versus a material object. Both of services have value and objects have value.
Good
and
point.
So, in our economy, we're always paying for services and for product. Yeah. And so this is why we teach us very young, even if they're 3, 4, 5 years old. You don't have to use economic words. You just teach them the value of things.
So this makes me think of the interview we did with Rachel Cruz, which is Dave Ramsey's daughter. And you can go back in our archives on the Rock Solid Families podcast and find that. But Rachel Cruz, it was so funny because she talked about this. She has young kids and they had gotten a brand new van, and one of the kids drew with a permanent marker on her seat of a brand new van. And so, oh my goodness, like they had worked hard, for this new vehicle. And so she just talks about how she responded and what she's teaching her kiddos. And so it is important in all things, whether it be your vehicle that they're trashing or the toy that they get, they don't take care of, or their room that they don't keep up on. Like, they need to understand that doesn't just poof happen. There isn't some maid or servant or Santa that's going to replace all those things that they don't take care of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Start now, please.
So the next thing that we really want to move into with our kids is teaching them what it takes to actually make or earn money. I think a lot of times kids don't realize, they might see that we go off to work, but even our teenagers are just starting to click in on what it means to make $5 an hour, $10 an hour, $20, $30 an hour, and to teach them. So our son makes about $10 an hour at where he works, and I forget what it was. He had to pay something $130. And I made him stop, and I said, "So how many hours do you have to work to pay?" And it was kind of a silly, frivolous sort of thing. And he's like, Oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
that's 13 hours.
Yeah.
And that had never dawned on him that that's 13 hours. And for him, that's actually about 3 days of work because of the types of hours that he picks up in a shift.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden he went, ugh.
Yeah. So we started this really young, and people disagree with us, and that's fine. But we started this young when they weren't allowed to work as far as out in the workforce, when they're 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. We would give them, little chores to earn money, but also we gave them allowance based on their years of age. And so if they're 8, they got $8. But we try to teach them very young the value of $1 by saving, spending, giving.
Right.
And so we would say out of that $8, $1 goes to tithe and offering, goes to church or giving to someone less fortunate. Then saving, we said 20% we want to go in a savings account, which is that car that you want to buy eventually. And then the rest you're allowed to spend. So we started them very young, like this is your spending money, but we're not giving you any money at the concession stand when we go to your sister's volleyball game.
Yep.
If you want a sucker or if you want popcorn, then you're going to have to bring your spending money. And man, that started so early, the value of the $1, because all of a sudden they're like, no, I don't really want to spend it on that, right? It's not that important.
Yeah. I mean, there are different approaches to it. I would highly recommend, we didn't invent that system, by the way. Okay. I would highly recommend you adopt that early because it just makes life so much easier. Our kids, honestly, when we joked at the beginning of the show about being an ATM, our kids don't ask us for money.
No.
They never have asked us for money because early on we've said, we are going to give you money, right? And so it's not like we're stingy that way, but really we're trying to teach them the money management.
Yes.
Now, we'll tell you, they haven't always managed it well, and that's why our daughter right now is wondering why Christmas is so far away.
Dunkin' is her addiction as well. So she'll drive by Dunkin', get a $5 latte, and all of a sudden she's like, oh, I don't have gas money.
Yeah, and that's, $35 a week on that little deal. And so, again, but it just made our life so much cleaner as parents that the kids had to learn to manage it. And when they managed it well, they had incredible savings and opportunities to buy things like dirt bikes and PlayStations as, that would be appropriate. But when they haven't managed it well, they're always scrimping around trying to make it happen.
I think that was one of the best things. And we did that with our older two as well. Until they were at the age at 16 where they were able to get a job and earn more money than $1 per year.
Yeah.
But it gave them a little taste of what it would be like to save money or to give back money. And so we want that to be something that you teach your kids very early, the value of $1.
Yeah. Which goes into the idea of, we've said this many times on shows, if you can teach your kids this, the number one thing that indicates success in a person's life. Okay.
This surprised me.
And people would say it's intellect or hard work, what school you went to, or you were just privileged because you were born in a certain family. None of those rank higher than self-control. Self-control is what proves out in people's life to be the most successful bearing quality and trait. And so teaching your kids that holding off that immediate gratification. Yeah. And this goes back again to the personality of your kids. With one kid, it might be a fairly natural and it's not a big deal. Your other kid, you're going to have to double down and really stay with it because, if you really want to give them a fighting chance, rather than, paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to sending them to an incredible school, teach them self-control. Yeah. And then they'll get to where they need to go in life.
Yeah. And when they don't, when you have that child, and we have those children that have very little self-control, you've got to let them have the natural consequences of those decisions or choices. Please, please, mom and dad, and this is where we're getting so stuck. This is where so much of the yuck comes in, is that we are saving our children from the consequences, the natural consequences of their decisions. Whether it be they did get a credit card at age 18 and they rung up $5,000 of debt. Now they're paying 25% interest, or maybe they don't have any money to put gas in their car to get to school. Like, you have got to let them take the bus. Yep. They've got to experience what it is like when they don't have self-control. And if you keep saving them, if you keep jumping in and rescuing them, you are not teaching them what they need to have a successful, independent life as an adult.
Yeah, hon, I think most parents have followed us up to this point in terms of, oh yeah, we do that. Oh yeah, we do that. We do that. And most parents start with the idea that they're going to make their kids pay the consequences. But they start that with a threat. Well, if you don't do this, then I'm not paying for it. But when the emotions get involved, and so I'll just tell you, our daughter's getting ready to learn. Okay.
She's going to have to take the bus
she
as a
is going
senior.
to have to take the bus. And what a blow that is going to be.
To her ego.
But guys, we want her to learn that at 18 and not 28, 38, or 48. Now, whether she will or not, there's no guarantee on that. But we would much rather see her be humiliated and frustrated. All right. And then we always turn around and say, okay, so what can you do about it? What can you do?
Okay. So, sweetheart, if you're watching, okay, gas money or Dunkin', you're going to have to learn the value of the dollar, right? Like, and if you don't want to, pay for gas, then don't drive all over town looking for that one shirt that's a deal, because you need to have a shirt. It's really a matter of choices that we make, and the value of a dollar learned, and the consequences even of those choices. So
this gets into a whole biblical thing, because those kids who struggle with the immediate gratification, it's where Satan loves to live. It's in the flesh, right? It is the taste buds. It is the cool clothes. It is the fast car. And so these struggles of the flesh is really where Satan lives. And the next thing you know, those are the things that govern the choices I'm making in my life. And so this is a great opportunity to talk about where Satan loves to reside and is in all of us, right? And so, especially in our culture, because we're all about comfort and convenience and getting the things that we want. And so the next thing you know, we forget about what's important.
And again, as I mentioned about the culture shift that's happening, our youngest three, when we adopted them, were kind of in that rush of that. And I remember, hon, and I've told this story before, of our daughter telling her friends and even her teacher in the 4th grade, my new mommy and daddy are going to buy me a new iPhone 7, which was the new one at the time. And the teacher came up to you, because you worked in the school building, and said, are you buying her a new iPhone?
I hear you're getting your daughter a phone.
And we're like, what? And but in her mind, love equaled a new iPhone.
Right.
I've never had one. I've always wanted one. That would be what you would give me if you loved me. And see, mom and dad, we're buying into the lie of the enemy.
Right.
We had to try to explain to her as a 4th grader, it's because we love you. You're not getting a brand new iPhone as a 4th grader. And so we've got to push past the pressure of this world and the expectations of our kids. Of course, it was natural for a 4th grader to yearn to have a new iPhone. I get it. But we as parents have got to make decisions that we can look long-term, that are going to be helpful and beneficial. There was a part of this mama bear heart that wanted to give her something that would just be her heart's desire, that she would have loved. But I knew in the long term that was not going to be a great gift or a loving thing to do.
Yeah, there's a time and a place for these kinds of things, right? But when we saturate our kids with this, you can think of the 5 or 6 year old that says, as they're not getting the candy bar at the store, "You don't love me."
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean?
If you loved me, you'd give me the candy bar.
If you love me, and that's how their brain thinks, and that's why as parents we can't continue, whether it's they're crying for the candy bar or crying for the car, right? Like, we can't fall into that garbage of saying, "Well, let me feed your flesh. That way you'll know that I love you."
And we did get our daughter a new iPhone on her 13th birthday. And, again, we're not going to give her another iPhone every year there's an update, right? We let her know, like, we're buying you your first phone. Just like we'll help you with your first car. But we're not going to be the ultimate ATM, Daddy Warbucks forever. Like, we want you to learn the value of a dollar. We want you to earn a lot of these things so that you can really appreciate them, that you worked for them.
All right. And let's move on.
Okay.
Let's move on to the idea of, all right, well, everything you're saying is great if I got a 3-year-old, but what if I've got a 23-year-old? What if I've got an 18-year-old? What if I have somebody and I've kind of conditioned them in a way that's not working out too well for us now? Okay. Yeah. And so, as much as we'd like to say, well, tough luck.
Sorry about your luck.
We really don't want to do that, because Linda and I see situations now where we see parents that are in their 70s and their kids are now in their 30s and 40s, and the kids are dictating what the love's going to look like still with material items. All right. And so this is a time where it's not too late. It's going to be a little harder, but it still is possible. And that is, first off, especially if you're with your spouse, get a plan for how you want to treat your money and gifts and services that you're going to provide. Okay. Whether you're, 7 days a week, I feel like I'm babysitting our kids.
Free of charge.
Free of charge. Or they're constantly asking me to, for a credit card for gas or whatever. And so get a plan to say, this is our line. This is the line that we feel like we're being abused on. Okay. Once you have that plan, then, hon, it's the old reset button. You want to explain what we do with the reset button?
And again, I think that's so important. I don't want to gloss over that. Is if you're married, you and your spouse have got to get on the same page, whether they're 3 or 23, whether they're living in your house or they're married with 3 kids. You brought up babysitting, hon, which is a huge expectation that so many adult children think and have for their parents. And their parents are 60, 70, 80 years old. They're retired. They want to travel. But no, they're expected that they're going to be babysitting because, they can't afford childcare. Well, you're not helping them understand the value of $1 especially if you're building resentment about that. So once you and your spouse have come to an understanding of what you're comfortable with, what you're willing to do out of a cheerful giving heart, not out of obligation or guilt, right? If you decide, hey, we'll babysit 1 day a week, we'll help you with that, then you have to have a reset button and you have to have a meeting with your child or children or, their family, whatever it is, the spouse and, son-in-law too. Like you have to sit down and say, hey, we love you, but we're sorry that we have miscommunicated, what our willingness to do or give or do for you. And so we own that. We own that we have been part of the problem. So when you do that, you keep the defenses down, I believe, and you don't point the finger of like, you're an ungrateful brat. Like that's not going to go over well. But if you say, hey, this has been on Dad and I, Mom and I, that we've not communicated clearly enough of what we'll do and won't do because we love you and we want good things for you. We want you to be a successful, independent adult.
Yeah. There's no guarantees that how that's taken, right?
Especially if it's older.
But again, if your pain has become greater than anyone's in the situation, then you have to decide whether you're going to continue to bear the pain and continue doing what you're doing when you know it's actually hurting your kids. And so, there's no guarantee, but when there's a stronger foundation in relationship, okay, and that's why building relationship always is important with our family members, okay, then we say this is our limit now, okay, and we state our limit. And then this is not a threat. We say, hey, if you do this, you'll have to know like this is what the consequence will be, okay? And so like maybe we say we'll babysit once a week because we like to be around the kiddos or whatever. But that's all we're going to do. And if all of a sudden it seems to be getting abused, we made our consequence might be say, we have to break clean. Right. Yeah. But we're going to have you and your spouse are going to think about how you're going to both be on board. And the reason why, hon, is because one of us is always going to be a little bit more emotional than the other.
Usually the woman.
And we're going to see the big crocodile tears. Hon, you say that, but I run into granddads
that's
as
true.
often as anyone just going, oh, it's not worth it, honey. Just go ahead and do it. And so, it can be either one that falls to the emotion of it. And so that's why we go to really, hold arms together, lock down and say, no, out of love and respect for us and you guys, we're asking for you to respect this.
Yeah. Now, I don't want you to just throw them out to the curb, overnight. We're not asking you to set them up for failure,
right?
Especially if they are out of a job. Right? Or the housing market is horrible. And so, but you got to put some expectation on there. It's like, hey, we understand you just sold your house and you can't find another one. You're welcome to live here, but please be very clear on the boundaries. Hey, we'd be glad for you. You're welcome to stay here for the next 6 months until you found some, or until you found something. But the 6 months is the max, like letting them know. Or you can stay here, but we want you to put away some money for a down payment of a house.
Right. Or you're gonna pay this amount of the utilities.
You're gonna pay the utilities.
Or, you there has to be some buy-in.
Yeah.
And then they have to have the vision of what they're going to do to take care of themselves.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And then, let them experience the consequences without you feeling and experiencing the guilt. It's so hard because they will try everything but the kitchen sink to make you feel guilty, to you to give in, for you to change your mind. But that's when resentment and bitterness builds up in us as parents and grandparents, when we feel unappreciated, when we feel like our no doesn't mean no, when there wasn't a limit. And long term, you've not taught them the value of $1 if you keep giving in and kind of caving to what is the healthiest for them and for you. Yeah.
All right. So guys, that's a little bit of our take on how we can help our kids, especially we bring this up during Christmas because there's, it's an expensive season. And so you're going to see a lot of people kind of with the hand out and again,
expectations high you owe me.
Yeah. And within families, if it doesn't go quite the way somebody wants, then there can be, the drama that goes there. And so it's worth thinking about and getting a plan. Yeah. So the challenge is if any of this rings a bell with you, then start now, start today. Yeah. Don't push this off. Okay. It doesn't mean you instantly go home today and say, starting today, this is how it's going to be. It means you get your brain going, you get a plan together with your spouse, and we start with a way forward.
I have to say something real quick here, hon, because I know that there's parents out there who have already kind of laid a really bad habit out there. Okay. And so I can hear them already, their wheels are turning in their mind of, oh my gosh, my kids expect a $10,000 check this Christmas because that's what we do every year or whatever.
Put me on the list. Yeah.
But I don't want you to go in and blindside them.
Right.
Okay. It does bear a conversation ahead of time, before Christmas. Because if you have been giving them this certain amount of money just free of charge and no expectations, then all of a sudden you and your spouse realize maybe we went overboard and we got to pull back, and you don't clue them in, then man, they might not have made their house payment thinking that you're going to get this, they're going to get this big check. So don't surprise them. Sit them down as adults, let them know, hey, we have had some bad habits. We kind of parented out of guilt, and we're changing this because we want to help you understand the value of $1.
Yeah. Guys, if we can help you with this, by the way, it does come into our office frequently where we actually have to help people kind of create some of these plans because they want to do it well. At the end of the day, we're all always trying to preserve and save relationships with people that we love. And so if there's something that you see is like, it's a bit overwhelming, we could use some help, please reach out to us. You can get us at rocksolidfamilies.org or 812-576-ROCK. That's 7625. You wouldn't be the first people, right, that come in for these kind of things. And, don't hang your head like, I can't believe I've done this. It's like, well, let's see what we can do to clean it up.
And God's given us free will. So even if we teach this and we emphasize this, it doesn't mean our kids are always going to adhere to it, as we've been talking about. Sometimes we have to learn the hard way. So thank you so much for listening to the Rock Solid Families podcast, building a stronger community, one family at a time. Make it a great day.
Rock Solid Families wants to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions for sponsoring the Rock Solid Families podcast. Casey's has grown to be one of the largest and most unique garden centers and gift shops in the Cincinnati tri-state area. Whether you are looking to take on that next landscape project or simply add a little home decor to your house, Casey's has you covered. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Call them today at 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home.